Hey y'all, so I wanted to show you my Younique makeup routine today. I start out with a few spritz of my rose water to tone my face. Then I follow that up with about a pea-sized amount of Glorious Primer to give a nice base for the foundation. The excess of the primer that I have on my hands, I'll spread through my hair and it leaves it feeling really smooth and looking really shiny all day long. It's gorgeous. Next, I'll follow that up with my liquid foundation, and it's a mineral foundation, so I always shake it up to make sure it's mixed really well. Then I take the dropper and I put about 5 drops on a beauty blender, and I'll just dot that all over my face so that I can get a really even application when I start blending. And this foundation is a medium coverage and it dries to a matte finish. And it's very, very lightweight, so you really don't feel like you're wearing makeup at all when you're wearing this foundation. Next, I take concealer in the shade Scarlet, and I put that underneath my eyes to cover up some under eye circles. I put it in a triangle shape instead of a semicircle so that it's a brighter look under my eye and it's more of a highlight look and it fades more naturally into my foundation. I'll just blend that out with a beauty blender, and I like to take it on the top of my eyelids too to be a kind of base for my eyeshadow because I typically don't use eyeshadow primer. And then I'll put a little on my nose and chin too to cover any blemishes or dark spots. Next, I'll set that with my powder, and I put a little excess powder on any spots of my face that tend to get oily throughout the day. I take my beachfront bronzer next, and I take a fluffy brush and I put that in the deeper areas of my cheeks and then my hairline next to my temples. And I put it a little bit under my chin as well, and then I'll put it on my nose in just a second too. I do this instead of contouring with a cream palette because I feel like it's a more natural everyday look than a full out cream contour. I use an eyeshadow brush on my nose with the bronzer instead of a fluffy brush because it's easier to control where the bronzer goes and you make sure you don't get any on the top of your nose. Then I'll just blend it all out with, again, a beauty blender. I love these, to make it have a much more natural and just kind of glowing look. Next, I take my blush in the shade Sweet, and I take, again, a beauty blender, and I put just a little bit of the blush on that, and I test it on my hand to make sure it's not too strong, and then I just put that on the apples of my cheeks all the way up to about the height of my eyes. Next, I take my Addiction Shadow Palette 1, and I take the shade Sincere, and I get a fluffy brush, and I just use that as the highlight. This is a great shade for pale people like me because it's very hard to find a highlight that actually shows up on really pale skin. And then I found this, and it worked perfectly. Next, I take that same palette, and I take the shades Chipper and Forthright, and I put them on a liner brush to shade in my eyebrows with. I start in the arch of the eyebrow so that the majority of the shadow is collected there. That makes it darker in the arch and lighter as you get more towards the inside of your eyebrow, which is exactly the look I'm going for. I want it to fade into the edge. Then I take the spoolie end brush of my brow liner and I just kind of fade it out and make sure I'm brushing the eyeshadow in the way they need to go. Next, I take Addiction Shadow Palette 5 in the shade Suspicious. I use my cream shadow brush for this, and then I'm just doing an all over lid color, but I'm trying to collect more of the shadow in my outer V so that gives still a bit of definition even though I'm just using one color. And I want to make sure to shade that up just a little bit above the crease so that it's not a harsh line and a very big definition between above the crease and below. Next, I take a smaller brush and I just bring that same shade down on my lower waterline, lower lash line, and I bring it just a little bit inside the middle of that. This finishes out the eye look and makes sure it's not all collected on the top and makes it a whole look. Next, I go back to palette 1 and I take that same shade as I was using for the highlight, Sincere, and I just put it on my pinky and go on the inner corners of my eye and then everywhere I need to highlight on my brow bone and eyebrow. I like using my pinky for this because it gives a better application in those areas than a brush does. Next is my favorite part. I get to do my mascara, which this is our brand new reformulated 3D fiber lashes. It's in 2 tubes. There's a gel tube and a fiber tube. You start out with the gel tube and then you'll immediately follow it up with the fibers, and then you'll go back in with the gel tube to seal everything in. I'm doing the gel tube right now, and I'm just giving a generous coat to the front and back of my lashes. I focus more on the front than the back. Then I take the fibers and I roll the brush in my hand so that I make sure there's not too much excess fibers so that there isn't a lot of fallout on my face. And I want to scoot in a little bit closer so y'all can see more what I'm doing with this mascara and see the definition it gives my eyelashes. Now that I've done gel and fibers on both eyes, I'm going in and I'm doing my lipstick in the shade Fortunate, which is a great fall color, because I want to give the fibers time to kind of dry and adhere to the gel before I go back in with my final coat of gel to seal everything in. Whenever you're doing lipstick, it's a good idea to take a finger and pull it out of your mouth as soon as you're done. That takes off the excess lipstick and makes sure you don't get any on your teeth throughout the day. Now I'm going back in with my final coat of gel to seal everything in, and I put it on the front and back of my lashes pretty generously, not as generously as the first coat usually. And this gives more definition to my lashes and kind of separates everything out and makes sure there's no clumps or anything like that. This mascara gives 500% your normal volume. If you're like me and get all of your mascara on your eyelids as well as your eyelashes, this is a great trick to use. I take the spoolie brush of my brow liner and I just pick off the extra little mascara that's landed on my eyelids, and it doesn't move the eyeshadow at all. Hint on this though, I have tried this with non-Younique mascara and it doesn't work. So it's something about the way ours is formulated. It lets you do this. Other mascara, it just smears. And here is the finished look. This is just a full Younique makeup routine. It would be great for a little bit of a fancier day because you've got the eyeshadow and the lipstick going on. I generally do a little less than this, but I wanted to show y'all my full routine. Alright, I'll see y'all next time.